Hey everybody, Shark Scrapper. Well, I have another AC client, HVAC client. They left this heat pump at the door. I've already taken off the lid and a screen that was there. So we're gonna take this apart and see what kind of value we have here. I have not done a heat pump yet, so I'm gonna be learning a lot as we go here. So come on, let's dive in. Now, I've already taken off a whole lot of screws. I've taken the screws off of these brass pipes with copper wire, screws around the top and the sides. So we're just figuring out how this comes apart right now. Like most things that we scrap, the first step is let's get the shell open, and that means a lot of unscrewing. What the issue is. It's not a screw. It's this thing, this tongue and groove kind of thing here. So we get it off the edge of the mighty Sharkmobile. And there was one screw here. That. Some insulation. All right. We're going to weigh up all of the shred and the wire and everything. I want to know what this is worth. All right, let's flip it right side up now. All right, our control board here. Let's cut that loose. That's just trash. We have a lot of wire here and a motor. They said they drained it. We'll find out. Well, I've been burned too many times before by folks saying they drained these things and they didn't. But I was pleasantly surprised. Now I get the fan going and I have a mask on when I cut these, just to be safe, just because I've had them blow up in my face. You can see I cut two of the lines from the heat exchanger and there was nothing leaking. And I made a small cut on one of the sealed units and I got no leakage as well. So I think we're good to go here. So that worked out good. There was, they did in fact drain the refrigerants, so I don't have to worry about that. see there's a lot of copper in here, so that's a good thing. And you got monkey dung down here. Well, at least that's what we call this in the Navy. I don't know what the professionals refer to that as, but we just call it monkey dung. Yeah, let's get some wires cleaned up here. We have oil dripping out of these, so there's oil in the, in the system, and it's because of that oil that all of this copper is going to be number 2. Plus, there's some soldering and stuff, so that's going to make this number 2 copper. And so there we have some nice brass, and I'm good. My yard doesn't mind either. I put that brass in with my clean brass because that little bit of copper is not going to make any difference, and copper is a component of brass anyway. Gotta get that off of there, no big deal. I have to admit, I have found this little 4-inch DeWalt battery operated grinder to be much more useful than I anticipated. These little cutoff jobs are a breeze with this thing. It's relatively lightweight, uses the 20 volt max battery, which comes in different sizes, so you can have more weight in your hand or less weight. It's just a very useful tool. If you're interested in getting this tool or any of the tools that I use, there's a link down in the description below to my Amazon store. Yes, I do get a commission from any of the tools that you purchase from my Amazon store, and a portion of those proceeds, of course, goes to our Shark Research donations. So I greatly appreciate you shopping there. All right, let's get our compressor off of here. Our sealed unit. When I hit these, this one's kind of rusted up, so that one might be a problem. These two look pretty good, but I'm going to hit them with a little blaster just in case. This is the Ace Hardware version of blaster. Let that soak in for a minute. And that's a 1/2 inch nut, and that turns pretty easy. There we go. All right, nice sealed unit there. we just have a bunch of metal of the ferrous variety. Oh boy, more screws. So we've got screws that are holding the copper aluminum radiators to the base and the frame here, so we're going to get to work on those now. This is plastic here, so we'll get that off of there. Just sort of a heat cowling, or a cowling for the airflow. And we have a copper aluminum radiator. Now we'll take our Sawzall and we will cut along here so that we separate the copper aluminum radiator from this piece of ferrous. Some people like to get the noodles off as well, which is also very acceptable as another way to get your number 2. And I probably will give that a quick cut, because that way I can get some more number 2. And then this part here, my yard calls it's either refinery or refractory. I don't remember which one, but it's that's this category where you have the copper and the steel together like that. That one had a lot of oil in it. It's just draining into a bin. I'll clean it up later. I'm going to try coming at it from this side so I get a cleaner cut. On that last one, that was just a terrible cut. I wasn't nearly as close to the ferrous part as I would like to be. That was much better. Terrible cut. Terrible, terrible cut. Look at all the weight, look at all of the waste here that now I've got to try to pull this aluminum off. And you know, I don't know how well that's going to work when I go to cut this, but hey, wait a minute. That feels pretty soft. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. We might be in luck. We are very lucky. All right, so yes, that was a terrible cut. I didn't get as close to the outer edge as I wanted to, but here's the good news. This is aluminum, so I could put this in just like this with the copper aluminum radiators, or I could try to get the noodles out of here. Interesting. Now it's much different than this piece. Here you can see this is ferrous, and we did a pretty good job here. We have one layer of the aluminum is still there, and the noodles are coming off really easy, so we did a good job cutting that one. And we got a little nut holding this fan on. There we go. Trash. And all right, there's a nice motor, copper bearing motor. Wire. And we'll just get this off of here. We have our control board here. This is just going to be a low grade board. I'm looking for screws so I can get it off of this plastic. I don't see any screws, so there we go. Trash. Low grade board. Now we could separate this toroid and that toroid and try to get the copper off of the toroids. We have a aluminum heatsink here, and I'm curious what's underneath of it. Let's take a look. If we can. Let's see. This screw might be for the heatsink. Well, I bet you already know what we're going to find underneath this heatsink, because what do we almost always find underneath of large heatsinks on a power board? MOSFETs. Yeah, that's what we're going to find. MOSFETs. So yeah, we'll get, can we get that one off too? Yeah, there's screws there, so we'll get that heatsink off. We can take this off as an electric motor, although it doesn't weigh much of anything. And then some folks like to go after these solenoid switches for the little silver dollops that are in there. The connector points. And then over here we have some IC flat packs and an oscillator if you're really into depopulating. I'm just going to weigh this up as a low grade board so that we have something that we have a solid number for our cost analysis. So our sealed unit was 24 pounds. The tin or ferrous shell is 38 pounds. We have 5 pounds for the motor. All right, there's our number 2 removed from all the other stuff. So number 2 copper. 6 minus 2, 4 pounds. Copper aluminum radiator, 16 pounds. And our refinery, 1 pound. All right, our low grade board was 2.4, 2.39 pounds. We'll call it 2.4 to make it easy. I don't want to get my deck dirty there, so 0.8. So here's the aluminum heatsink. So that'll be 0.28. Oops. And all of our wire. All right, and the wire was 0.71. All right, our clean brass is 0.63. The dirty brass, 0.65. I could probably clean that up a bit, but I'm just going to go like that. All right, and the last thing that we need to weigh, oh my, shark scrapper. That's like, you need to get on a diet there, fat boy. Oh, fat shark. I just had the scales recalibrated, so I know it's accurate, but I didn't realize that my boots were so heavy. All right, here's our weights. I'm going to send this over to Geek Shark and let him do his magic. Now, we did not keep track of the time because this is the first one of these that I've done. So I knew I was going to be really slow taking it apart, figuring out where things were. So time really wasn't a factor for this one as much as just trying to understand what these things are worth. All right, dirty, sweaty, oily, fat shark. Let's do some math. This is the best part right here, doing the numbers. I don't know, all that getting dirty stuff. Ugh. All right, so we're back in our Excel spreadsheet, and this is a very simple spreadsheet. We've got our item column, in this case here, shred. We had 38 pounds. The value is 0.0575 per pound. We're getting 5.75 cents a pound. Now, when you create your cells here and you format them, I formatted these for a number with 2 decimal points. But if you're looking up here at what's actually in the cell, you can see that it's calculating on the value of 0.0575. So we get a net value of $2.19 a pound. Now we've started looking at the percent of the weight and the percent of the value of these things, which adds a very interesting component to the whole calculation. And we can see that the shred was almost 41% of the weight, but only 4% of the value. Very interesting. All right, our sealed unit, 24 pounds at 28 cents a pound, is giving us $6.72. Nearly a quarter of the weight, but only 12 to 13% of the value. The copper aluminum radiator at 16 pounds, we're getting $1.75 a pound, so that's $27.20. Look at this though, although that was only 17% of the weight, it was almost 51%, over half of the value of the item. The copper bearing motor at 5 pounds, getting 36 cents a pound for $1.80, so that was 5% of the weight and 3% of the value. Our number 2, copper, 4 pounds. Look at this, we're getting $2.75 a pound, so that's $11. It only made up 4.3% of the weight, but 20%, almost 21% of the value. We went ahead with the rest of it. Here's our low-grade board. Here's our refinery. Here's our number 2 insulated copper wire, the aluminum heatsink, the brass, the dirty brass. Total of 93, just over 93 pounds. And then we have our net value overall, $53.62 once we've scrapped it out. Let's take a look at this graphically. Here's the percent of weight, and what we can see is that there we go. The shred made up the bulk of the weight, followed by the sealed unit and the copper aluminum radiator. And then if we look at the actual values that we got better than half of the value right here came out of the copper aluminum radiator, and the number 2 copper right there gave us a nice large chunk, 20% of the value of this. So your top 3 players here for value from a heat pump is the copper aluminum radiator, the number 2 copper, and the sealed unit. My guess is that none of that surprises those of you that have been scrapping for a while. If you're new to this, it's always nice to know what's going to give you your greatest value so that when you find these things and they're partially scrapped or something like that, you can make some intelligent decisions about it. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this awesome adventure into the math behind scrapping. Or if you want, you can just go watch Dirty Sweaty Shark take stuff apart, which is very easy to do by just following these links that are popping up on the screen. One's going to take you to more scrapping videos. Another one's going to take you to what YouTube thinks you want to see next. And the round one in the middle is to help you to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a great day, everybody.